All right, con man. Here we are, first episode of our maybe still unnamed podcast. How are you today?
I am good. How are you?
Pretty good. I had a phone interview today. Not much else happening besides that.
Phone interview, like new job, new internship, what?
Yeah, new job. It's an IT job, maybe. We'll see what comes of that. All right. So before we get into Terminator here, con man, what else have you been watching lately?
Um, The Sopranos. I kind of for a while. I feel like the last few years I've been getting really into watching a lot more of the classics when it comes to movies, but I feel like I've slept on a lot of different TV series, so I've been kind of trying to go back and watch some of the more famous TV series. So, yeah, Sopranos mainly as of late and some different movies. How about you?
Uh, this week I've been working through, as you know, some of John Carpenter's films, which we're gonna get into actually in a few minutes, because he has a slight connection to the Terminator, which I don't know if you
I did not know
had
that,
ever
actually.
heard that. The Terminator, directed by James Cameron, it was actually his second movie he directed. He first directed a movie called Piranha 2: The Spawning, and he got I'm not familiar, and he got the inspiration for Terminator. During the filming of that, and he said that once he got the idea, he inspired the writing of the Terminator on John Carpenter's films, like The Thing and Escape from New York and Halloween, and want to do like his version of a John Carpenter film almost.
Yeah, that's really cool, I think, to see like where people were inspired. Like it's really cool to also like I'm not sure if you ever knew, but James Cameron was like I believe he was a semi truck driver. And
Oh, I did not know that.
what made him want to get into films was Star Wars. After he saw Star Wars for the first time, he left the theater and decided that he was going to get into film. That was
Oh wow,
just
and then
a
he
random.
went on to make Avatar. So
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool for me as like a amateur filmmaker to see someone like as big and who has been making films for such a long time like James Cameron. Like it's kind of cool to see the correlation that he really did start, from the bottom as well and had people he was
right.
inspired by, and he was going to see movies just like we are now, and it's kind of cool to see like an average person like that really can, one day make a name for himself and be a big name in Hollywood. So I don't know, it's just something kind of neat to see.
Yeah, and you probably feel especially good about that because you're starting a little bit closer, starting in a glass shop rather than trucking,
I mean, I did
right?
truck at the glass shop for a while.
It's not important. All right, so this movie was released October 26th, 1984,
What a
with a
great time
runtime.
to be alive.
Yeah,
There's probably
you
so
wouldn't
much
know though.
cocaine around that time.
A runtime of 107 minutes. It had a budget of 6.4 million. It made 78.68 million worldwide,
Wow.
which in the 80s, it was very, very, very good. That's why it spawned a franchise.
Yeah. And I know, like, we've talked about before, and, just personally, that it really seems like one of those movies that could have gone either way because, it definitely seems as if though like it was going in and could have just been a one-off movie. It could have been just one of
Yeah.
those odd one-off cult classic movies and never spawned this huge franchise that became so famous over the years. And so it's really really cool to see, especially just how the franchise has grown over the years despite it not being
Yeah.
always for the best.
People definitely didn't especially have faith in James Cameron, and I don't know if they should have, this being his first original movie, I'll call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it stars Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor, Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese, and of course Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator himself.
Oh yeah. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
when you were trying to say Linda, I thought you said Vin, and I was real confused because I was pretty sure Vin Diesel wasn't in this movie. But I thought, hey,
Yeah, no.
maybe he was.
No, no, no.
Yeah, I don't know. The Terminator. Back on the subject. What
Yeah.
what
So before we dive into the plot here, just like top level overview, what are your general thoughts on the movie?
I definitely think it is it's obviously a classic, and I think it definitely holds well. I think
Yeah, it
it
does hold up
definitely
very well. I just
earns
watched it last night. It holds up.
it definitely earns the right of being called a classic because for the time it came out with. I mean, there's some stuff in it like we've talked about that are it's a little corny, a
Yeah,
little cheesy, but it it really nails a lot of points. And what again, it could have been a very good just one-off movie because the idea of it is so
it
good.
is. Yeah,
But it really the lore of it and like the backstory is so cool that it's like you really do want more. So it's a great thing that it did
yeah.
spawn more movies. But yeah, I don't know. I like it a lot. It's always been something that I've always kind of liked as a child. What's your overall thoughts on it?
Well, I had never seen a Terminator movie until last month. I watched the whole series in like the course of a week. Then I went on to play some of the games and read some of the comics because I just really fell in love with the source material presented in this movie. And I think this movie too, or this series, I guess, has a similar thing to Star Wars, where like everyone likes the original, but they kind of agree that the sequel's better. You know, with the original Star Wars and then Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
It's a very similar thing. But I was really thinking about this last night in preparation of this conversation. I I don't think it's a better movie, but I think I might like this one more than T2.
And why is that?
It just comes down to in this movie, it's just Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese versus the Terminator. That's all that it is. There's nothing else. It's it's trimmed down. It's stripped down. There's no fat. There's nothing extra. There's no young John Connor. There's no liquid Terminators, right? And it's not very long. It's 100 minutes. So like I don't feel like it keeps you engaged. There's no part of this movie that is slow or that drags in my opinion. Like if you go back and watch a lot of the movies that we like from more recent years, like if we go back and watch Avengers Endgame, there's a lot of parts in that after watching it once that really drag.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think this is kind of what you're touching on is that there's a lot of movies that don't offer a lot of rewatchability, and I feel like The Terminator is definitely a series that does the opposite. It has a lot of things that are in it that are always enjoyable and are always good for rewatchability. And like something like what that the Marvel movies especially do. There's so many Marvel movies that I have seen I go to the theater and I see them maybe once. Maybe I watch it again at the theater, or I rent it maybe when it comes out and watch it a second time, and then I just go and never watch it again. I mean, like I think I actually have only seen Black Panther once. I think I saw it at the theater and that was it. I just had no
Yeah,
desire to
same.
see it again. I've seen Iron Man 2, I think like a few times, but I really never have a desire to watch that movie. I'm pretty sure the only times I've rewatched it was just because, like, I was trying to marathon them at one point. But there's a lot of movies that don't offer a lot of rewatchability, and I think the first Terminator does not have that problem at all. I think it has a lot of rewatchability and a lot of
Right.
entertainment value there.
There's so many great moments and so many great lines. Like it's not all perfect. Like I don't like when Kyle Reese first arrives in 1984. I don't think the way he delivers his lines is especially good, but it's still fun to watch. Like just the whole premise of a resistance fighter and a killer cyborg from 2029 traveling to 1984 to stop the leader of the resistance from being born. Like how that's so cool.
Yeah, it's definitely something I feel like wouldn't necessarily become like I don't feel like you'd see a movie made like that today.
Yeah.
It's really just different and like you can definitely see studios were more willing to take a risk on different things then. Like
Yeah. And I don't have this in my notes here, but I remember I read not too long ago that James Cameron wanted to do the whole movie in the future, but he didn't know how he would find the budget or the effects talent to do that. So that's why he brought in the time travel part of the movie.
And honestly, that's kind of funny. I had no idea about that, but it's funny to know because like I don't think it would be nearly as good if they had gone to the future. Because I mean, the one kind of like thing I think is the cheesiest part is towards the end when they have the motion capture of the of the Terminator
The
walking.
stop motion.
Yeah, sorry, stop motion
Yeah,
of the Terminator walking towards the door.
yeah, I have that in my notes here. That's the worst part of the movie, I think. But it's still that part's still so scary to me. It's so stressful, like them trying to get the door closed before it looks ridiculous, but them trying to get the door closed before that thing gets to them.
Yeah, I I've seen, like I said, I have seen this movie as a child. Like I watched it on TV. I remember with my dad way long ago, and that part, it kind of made me like feel a little bit nostalgic in ways, seeing some of the parts of the movie again. But I always remember that part stressed me out. Like I remember it stressed me out so many times. I had like these weird kind of like nightmares on occasion where it would just be like the super stressful like
Yeah,
the Terminator's after me, I can't get away, like I'm trying to run but I can't, like, and he's like right there, like yeah, it's definitely it does a good job. James Cameron really can nail the point that he's trying to make with his movies, and I think that's
yeah. There are definitely stakes the whole time, even when the effects don't hold up. And to me, that's just it's because it's shot well, it's acted well, and it's written well.
yeah, I agree. What are your thoughts on James Cameron as a filmmaker in general?
Um, I really like Terminator and the Alien franchise. I'm not a huge fan beyond that.
He didn't make the Alien franchise.
Or no, he did Aliens.
Oh,
Is
he
what I
did?
meant. Sorry.
I had no idea
Yeah,
about him doing that. I thought Ridley Scott did all of the Alien movies.
Aliens is written and directed by James Cameron.
That makes sense then. That actually makes sense to me
Because
too.
if you
Why
recall too, Michael Biehn is one of the leads in Aliens. He's like the main military
I
guy.
still haven't seen it. I have yet to
Oh,
see
okay.
any of the besides Alien Covenant. Same with Predator actually. I've seen half of Predator. I don't remember why I never finished it, but I've seen the half of the first Predator movie.
Hmm.
But I the only Predator and Alien movies I've seen all the way through were not the newest Alien movie, and then not the newest Predator movie, but the one before that, the one where they go
Yeah.
Predators or whatever, the one where they go to the planet.
Right. Yeah. Definitely watch Aliens at some point. It's quite different from every other Aliens movie, and I think in a perfect way. It's pretty great.
I think I've seen Avatar, obviously, but I know I think I'm right in assuming that both me and you aren't really fans of that series so much so far. I think
It's
it's
because it's still not a series, Connor.
yeah. I'm saying the start of the series though. I don't.
Yeah, it's like it's fine. It's just I don't really need a sequel
Yeah, I don't think
or three.
there's I think like six of them planned right now. Honestly, I don't know why what James Cameron has been doing for like the last 10 years. He hasn't made a movie for a while, but um, yeah, I hear Titanic is really good. I've never seen it. I probably will get around to seeing it because it is. I love Leonardo DiCaprio and I do respect James Cameron as a filmmaker. So, but
Hmm.
I don't feel like I can really judge his work off just two or three movies.
I wanted to watch his movie The Abyss. If you've heard of that, it's the one he shot almost entirely underwater.
Oh, I think
Um,
yeah, I do think I've heard of that.
but it's kind of hard to watch. So I don't have an HBO subscription right now, and it's kind of hard to watch. Like you can't just go and rent it, or or even buy it like on digital still.
Well, I have HBO, so maybe next time we get together we'll watch that.
Okay, where were we at with Terminator?
Um,
Um,
we were talking about some of the different points that we admired, and then we
right.
talking about him in general as a filmmaker.
So with it not being entirely in the future though, like but still having those glimpses of the future that made me really fall in love with everything around the future war, like like how it looks and how it sounds,
Yeah,
like the gray and like the rubble and the ash and the purple lasers and the giant HK tanks. I think that stuff is so cool, and it's a shame we got Terminator Salvation. That's none of that, but that's a whole topic in itself.
Yeah, I think a lot. It's kind of unfortunate with cinema in general. Um, I think a lot of it is constantly, obviously, trying to just make a million different sequels and trying to spawn its own cinematic universe. And I really think that Terminator was like at the like cusp of that. And even though like it is like kind of the finale, it still just seems like such a different movie compared to the first three movies. If that makes any sense. Like
Yeah,
even the third one, even though you could say the third one feels a lot different, I still feel like it tries to stay as true to the series as it possibly can. Whereas Salvation's the first one to just really feel like straight out of the left field. I think even the Genesis movie, I know a lot of people didn't like that one too much, but I think even that one tried its best to really stay true to the series, being with a different director and everything.
yeah, yeah.
I just think it's hard when you have a series in general that changes directors because obviously, like James Cameron has always said that he realistically sees it as one and two, and that's it. He considers that the end of the Terminators in his eyes at least. And when he's the one that creatively made it, it's like how can you tell him no?
Maybe it should have been like they won at the end of two.
Yeah, honestly, that's the only
They
one.
stopped Judgment Day.
That's the only one that really um really went anywhere. The rest of them are just constantly trying to set up more sequels that don't work. They just constantly like reboot it, kind of.
Yeah, that's the thing too that I wanted to touch on. It kind of is part of it. Is like in this first movie, the Terminator is actually like really scary in a way that they're just really not in any of the other movies.
Yeah, I that's another thing. Like it doesn't, and I mean I think with anything, like if you would have a series, the more you'd get to see the Terminators and like kind of. I think the scariest thing is the unknown. And so when you see
Yeah,
you know, you see Arnold, you're thinking he's just kind of a person. Like you're told he's a robot, but then once you actually see the robot, you never really know what his
right,
true capabilities are. And so like when you go to a land where everyone knows what the Terminators are, they know they're not really like it's just kind of like everyday life. It isn't going to be as scary. So that scary element would always be gone, but I really think they really duped themselves in giving it all away at once cuz like that's kind of why I feel like they had to up the ante with two with the liquid Terminators because it's like that's
right.
scary. You don't like how are you gonna kill this thing? Like there's no gun, there's no
Lava.
yeah, I mean obviously that's how they do it, but you're not gonna be immediately thinking
Right, right,
where
right.
are you gonna find lava, especially in a city where are you gonna find that?
Just like from when he starts to, like, you're not really sure like how strong he really is or like how scary he is until he starts killing the other two women who are named Sarah Connor. Like the way he just executes them, I can imagine how like how shocking that must have been in 1984. Because even today, with all the stuff that we have, I was like, "Jeez!"
Yeah.
Like the way that he just blows them away.
Especially too, I would imagine because like from what I hear, going to see movies back then, they were so even like in the '90s, it was so much different than it is now because we have the internet now, we have YouTube now to see our trailers and everything. Like we're so much more informed. But like from what my parents say in the '90s is like there'd be tons of movies you just have no idea what it's even really about. You might see like oh this person's in it, or you might see like a brief like synopsis, but it's like you would just go to the theater and you just watch it. Maybe you'd see trailers for a movie, but like most of the time you didn't know what the movie was about. And to go back even further, to the '80s, most people had no idea unless they were at the theater and they saw it on a trailer. Like most people
Yeah,
didn't really see the ads
that
on TV.
makes
So
sense.
it's like imagine going to see this movie, you have no idea what it's about. They don't really let you know that like oh this is a robot killing until it's like maybe like halfway through the movie. You finally find out it's a robot. uh, that would be, I think, super shocking back in the day to have no idea what this movie's about. You're
Yeah.
just thinking maybe it's just this guy that's just killing chicks for fun, and
I mean, Kyle tells Sarah Connor that it's a cyborg, but yeah, I'm not sure that the audience would have really understood to what extent until his skin all comes off towards the end. Yeah.
yeah. And I think even then, like, it still could always just be like, is this guy crazy? What is the deal? Like, because I think that would honestly be an interesting idea, is if you had a movie where it tries to set like something similar to that kind of storyline. Like, it could be a robot or it could just be fake, and then it ends up being fake. Like, that would be a cool twist to a movie if they make you think that, oh, this guy is a robot, and then at the end he doesn't end up being a robot. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you do the same thing, but like, it could have been something. Like, you could, I feel like I could see it going either way if they were playing it right.
Yeah, up until he gets blown away by the shotgun. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just saying in a different kind of like a in a different reality if they did something different kind of
Speaking of
way.
a different reality, do you know that they wanted O.J. Simpson to play the Terminator, but they thought that he wouldn't seem like he was a murderer? Yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think he's gonna be able to make it. Sorry, James.
yeah. And I don't just finishing up on like how this actually makes the Terminator scary. Um, After they escape the Terminator, after they're in that club, Kyle has that great line to Sarah where he says, "It can't be bargained with, it can't be reasoned with, it doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop ever until you are dead." Like, like that on its own, like it's a super powered robot where its only drive in its existence is to kill you and it will not stop. Even when you blow it up and it's in half and has to crawl towards you, it'll still keep coming.
Yeah, I think the Terminator doesn't show you the grand scale of the world.
But it really hints at it.
Yeah, like James Cameron had an idea of what he wanted. He wanted to make this grand epic scale thing, but he didn't have the resources to do it. But it was all in his head. Like, he had the idea. It wasn't like he was just going along like, hey, it'd be cool to make this movie where this robot comes back in time and does this, this, and that. It was all, hey, Terminators are a cool idea. What if eventually the world goes down? Like, it was all pre-planned. It all started with the idea of this, and then he worked his story through that. And I think that's how you world build. I really do. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think it just. I think it starts with an idea, and brick by brick, you build that up.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, he did a great job laying the groundwork for stuff that is later really expanded upon in this series.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on the music. I know, what did you text me that you thought that the music was like? It was like some kid in his room with a with a keyboard or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's iconic. It's not like it's bad. I always just kind of think the first one is always like, I don't know how to explain it. It's not like it's like bad, but I feel like it definitely seems like James Cameron had like a friend or something that like did the music for.
I
It's not
personally
even
think it's
just
awesome, but I
the
can't say that
main
you're wrong.
theme. It's not even like the main theme. It's more so just like some of the different like it's like that like constant like when they'll be like the scene I think I'm thinking of specifically is when they're leaving the hotel and he's like chasing them.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Um, I don't know. That scene always just makes me laugh because it really just seems like he like made the film and then was like, "Gosh, I need some music for this." Like he like knew one friend of his that kind of like dabbled with music and asked him to help him with it.
I don't know, but yeah, I think it's really cool music. I do think that it's lower budget music, at least for the first one, but I think that works in its favor too, of it being small scale, of it being a tight story. But I think the music too, and how it's shot and the colors make it have that like '80s retro futuristic look that is kind of in right now. The neon lights and the chrome and stuff like that. I
Yeah,
think that's part of why I like this movie so much because I love that aesthetic.
yeah. I think I think a lot of these movies, I think the 80s culture just in general have really made a big comeback, obviously. Like, I think there's a lot of different things that people have that are liked, but I think people are constantly looking back just at the different culture of that time and
Yeah,
really taking a lot of inspiration from it. I think movies specifically are something that really resonate with people. Like, I mean, you can even see just with the Terminator how many people remember the different quotes and things. And so
yeah,
I think it was definitely a huge time for a lot of these different famous movies to come out. From like the mid '70s all the way up into the I'd say probably the early '90s is when some of the different movies started to be a little bit more cheesy and corny through and
yeah,
through. But not that there isn't good movies through that time, but
yeah. Very well said. I don't think I have anything else to add to that. Um, Something I was just thinking of while you were saying that too. Is this is going off the world building thing that we were just talking about? I don't. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think. Maybe it's only once. I don't think they mention or bring up the word Skynet in this movie, even.
yeah, actually now that you say it,
Like
I
they
don't
touch on there
really.
being like a super defense intelligence, but I don't remember like if it is, it's such a passing line. Whereas like it goes on to be like the main crux of like every movie is Skynet, Skynet, Skynet. And in this, it's so trimmed down to the most purest Terminator elements that like there is not really even Skynet in this movie.
I don't think that Skynet specifically is the entire like the center of the Terminator idea. I think the robot obviously was probably the center of the idea. Like when James Cameron
Yeah,
was just thinking of this in his head, like, wouldn't it be cool if these robots took over the world one day and there was a pack of freedom fighters that are trying to win this war against them. I think Skynet is more so just like the name kind of to put it behind like the origin. And like you were kind of saying, like, it wasn't it was so trimmed down it wasn't really touched on ever. And if it was a one-off movie, the idea of Skynet wouldn't really be a thing. People wouldn't, even if it is mentioned in the first movie, people wouldn't take away Skynet. It would more so just be the robot. Like it's what
right.
essentially all the Terminators are, is just a robot. And I mean, obviously Arnold kind of puts some of his personality in it, because especially I would say in the second and third one, you really see some of those different lines where he almost kind of seems improvised in ways, like,
Yeah,
um, which it is funny, but it definitely doesn't seem as much robot as it just seems Arnold's personality. But yeah, I don't know. I think I definitely think there was some ideas that were added on. I think overall he had his idea, but I think some of it was added through on, I guess.
yeah, and this movie will forever be really good just because it wasn't oversaturated. It wasn't trying to set up a universe like you were saying from the get go, and it leads to these really tight kind of longer moments that you wouldn't necessarily get otherwise. Like my personal favorite part of the movie is when they're in that club called Tech Noir, and it's before any of the characters meet, like before the real chasing starts. Like from when Arnold comes into that club and is like looking for Sarah Connor, like that scene is like so good and so tense of him like weaving through the crowd trying to find her because he knows that she's there, and then he spots her, and then Kyle has to quickly like try and stop him from killing her. It's just so well done.
Yeah.
I think it's such a cool scene.
Yeah, I do too. I like the whole beginning of that movie, honestly. Like I think that whole scene where Kyle is like trying to lose the cops. I think
Yeah.
the whole beginning scene when he comes in and steals the bum's clothes and stuff is
He's like,
really
that guy
good.
stole my pants.
Yeah,
It's-
I really like that beginning a lot. I don't know why.
yeah,
There's something about just like the way it's shot. I think specifically, I like how it's like just like a side moving angle when it's like him through the store, like ducking down like by like the
yeah.
clothing racks, and you have all the cops like through the.
That's another really awesome scene in the store.
Yeah, I think that was another part that I just really liked from Genesis, that they recreated that scene. Like it's, I don't know, it's really cool that they, I feel like that they
I
did
thought that
that.
was cool too. And then the whole beginning part kind of culminates in them actually being caught by the police and being arrested. And that leads to the Terminator saying, I'll be back for the first time, crashing into the police precinct and just like killing every cop in that building.
Yeah. It is funny because like I guarantee you they probably said that having no idea that it would be like this huge thing that people remember. Like I guarantee you that's obviously I mean, I don't even have to guarantee you. I think it's common knowledge that that is the most known saying when it
Definitely.
comes to that movie. Like that's the most known
The
quote.
only other one you could even make an argument for is "Come with me if you want to live." But yeah,
Yeah, and again, I think that's really. I mean, the Terminator movie is clearly where Arnold Arnold just made his, he stuck the landing. Like, I think he had been in movies, but I think the Terminator
yeah,
was his first real big hit. Because then that after that it was like, you got Predator, Commando, Conan the Barbarian. Like you got all these giant action movies. Like he was the Rock basically of his day.
yeah, yeah. He was. Conan actually delayed the production of this movie because he was too busy filming that.
Oh, really? I did not
Yeah,
know that.
it was pushed back
I
nine
knew
months.
I knew it was all around the same time. I mean, he had a big, if you really think about it, he had like a big 10 years because from 1980 to 1990. And I mean, even
And
onward,
even
he
yeah, even
was
beyond that,
doing a
because what
lot.
T2 what wasn't even until 92 or 93, right?
Yeah, but by the time T2 rolled around, he was already a big
Yeah,
earning actor because he had been in a lot. And I
and
really do think The Rock is the same way because The Rock has been in a lot and he's
mhm.
already starting to become so famous and popular and like, he's making a lot for each of his standard movies.
Yeah, and I know you haven't seen these, but between T1 and T2, he did Total Recall and The Running Man, which are I think two of his best movies. They're both one-offs, and they're both really really good.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about actually both those movies. I obviously, like we've talked about it, there's a lot of different movies that I still need to watch, and like funny enough, like because I would say I'm the one more so into the actual film making part of it. Like
Yeah,
it's I don't know, like sometimes it feels a little like not like shameful, but like I'm just kind of like being lazy about certain things. But at the same time, it's like exciting because it's like I want to have stuff that I can look
yeah,
forward to
right.
watch.
Like how boring would it be if it's like, yeah, I've seen every good movie. That'd be depressing.
Yeah, and that's like why like I love finding new people like that. I just love their work, like John Carpenter or James Cameron or whoever it is. I like finding those people and just being able to go through all their work. I mean, if I think about like my favorite directors, it all stemmed off of watching one movie, and I'm like, oh, who made this? Oh, Quentin
Right.
Tarantino. Oh, Martin Scorsese. Oh, and then I watch another movie and
Yeah.
it's directed by the same guy. Like, huh. I
You're
liked
like,
those two movies a lot. Maybe I should check out and see what he's done. Like, and it always, it's always stemmed from that. Like, I fall in love with their work, and I usually most of their movies I find some way of liking or respecting it because I just like the way their mind works. It's a I don't know. It's like a rabbit hole you can fall down, but like in a great way.
one one more part of Terminator I wanted to touch on specifically was when he gets arrested and he's being interrogated by Dr. Silberman to see if he's crazy. He has a really great line that really sums up why I think this movie's better than T1. He says, "Nobody goes home, nobody else comes through. It's just him and me." Like that is the essence of this movie. It is just him and the Terminator.
Yeah, I actually never really gave that much thought. I that is a better line than I guess. Not that I never thought it was a bad line, but I
Yeah.
never it never resonated me as much. That is yeah, that's interesting to think about. I think there's a lot of different lines. I think a lot of directors are better at writing dialogue than they give themselves credit for. And
Yeah.
it's obviously hard because when you're making a movie, it's like you can't do everything. You can't be the director, the camera operator, the writer, the editor. You can't do all that stuff realistically. The bigger the
Hmm.
project, the more that becomes its own job.
Definitely.
But there is something to be said when you can make your own vision through and through. Like I don't. Did he
Yeah.
write that movie? Did he write the dialogue for that movie?
He did. He co-wrote it, but yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's something. I think for me personally, like as you know, like Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino. Martin Scorsese is definitely my favorite. Quentin Tarantino is more somewhat like he's not my favorite, but he's definitely someone I respect. He finds an idea that he likes and he makes it, and I think that's super respectable. I think the fact that he's a lot like Martin Scorsese, where he writes. I think no, he writes all his movies. I know that for sure. He writes and directs his movies. The one that
Yeah.
out of the 10 ones or 11 ones that he's going to be making and has made. So for me, that's something that's like really to write a movie. I think would be kind of tough. I can't always do like the audio or like coming up with certain characters is kind of hard for me. But when I think of what kind of a movie director would want to be, I would want to be like that. So like James Cameron, I think is someone that's also similar. I think he likes to build whole worlds, and I mean obviously that can be shown in Terminator because there's so many people that the movie studios still have their hands on it and they see that it's a moneymaker, so they try to get directors to continue the world building and building it. But you can't you can't have somebody that's not an architect building a world, and movie studios are not architects when it comes to world building in movies, so they don't know what to do, and they might not necessarily always be hiring the right people. I think there's a lot to be said when a movie director can build his worlds and can stick through and work hard to at least be part of the writing on it, and to try to see at least how everything is going on every part of the movie.
Yeah. I think that because this was more of his unified vision, it played a lot into its success. That he wrote it, so he knew how to direct it. That's why it's done so well. Is there anything else specifically about the Terminator that you wanted to touch on?
I guess what is your hopes for the future of the series? Where do you think could you see it going? Do you think that the Terminator will make a return as grand as the first two, or will it just kind of fizzle out and fall underneath the grate?
It's such a hard question because I don't like we don't need more good Terminators. We have a whole story. Arnold's pretty old now, so I'm not, and it wouldn't be the same without him. So I'm not sure what I would want them to do. So maybe just don't do anything. I, you know, like
Yeah,
unless they do a future war movie that looks like if they do one that is set in the original movie's future, that's what I would want to see because you could do that without Arnold. I think
yeah,
kind of like the game Terminator Resistance that I just played through. Like that. That's kind of the approach that took.
yeah. No, I think the problem it faces too right now, like I think for me personally, like something that I see with the Alien movies and the Predator movies, which really upsets me with the Alien movies because I really liked Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and I guess there's not really official word on what they'll be doing, but like when you look at some of these series that have been around for such a long time, and movie studios are greedy and they want to just keep making money off something, so they keep trying to reboot a series, like it really sucks because at a certain point if it's not going to be making any money they're just going to drop it. And so
Yeah.
like I like the Terminator and I don't want it to see it have a bad last movie. I want it to go out on
Yeah.
top. And so I think for a lot of fans they want to see this series done well. Even if it's ended, they want it to have a good ending. And it's hard for a lot of people to like look at it like, okay, just look at it as Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, forget the rest. Because,
Hmm.
Terminator 3, Terminator Salvation, Terminator Genesis, Terminator whatever the
Dark
new one,
Fate.
yeah, Dark Fate. They're all there. And chances are they're still going to be making them. They're still going to be rebooting them because they'll do whatever Irishman stuff to de-age Arnold. They'll probably try
Yeah.
rebooting it. They'll probably try doing whatever they want to do. Maybe down the line when Arnold dies, they'll have some sort of technology where they just have a CGI Arnold and they have his voice because they've just used all the voice lines from the old movies.
But do you want that
No, no, but I can see it happening. Is the point? Like I could see it truly happening down the line.
like
But
with Peter Cushing in Rogue One?
yeah, it it I personally like you would like it just to end. Like I would like
Yeah.
most of those series just to end because like I don't want to see them dragged through the mud and I just don't know how where they go from now. But like part of me also really hopes that they make something good and just end it. Like just do like one, two max more movies and just end it. You know?
Yeah,
Send it off.
that'd be cool.
Finally show how Judgment Day ends. Don't do another reboot. Make something new. Really.
But that's definitely a whole conversation. We've already been going for 50 minutes somehow, Connor.
Yeah. I think there'll be a lot that will need to be
Yeah.
cut though.
And I know I told you this last week, but part of why I like Terminator 1 a little more is because I was more surprised by it because it's not as talked about. Like, I didn't know that Kyle Reese was John Connor's father until I watched this movie last month.
Yeah.
That genuinely surprised me. I was like, what?
Yeah,
But,
that's
like, when I watched T2, I knew that Arnold was the good guy in T2. So, like, that took away from that movie for me, I think, with my first experience with it.
yeah, I think that would have definitely been way cooler in like theater seeing that, like not knowing anything about it because it's like
Yeah.
think about it, like you've seen the first Terminator, you're hyped to see this one because you're like the Terminator's a badass movie. I want to see the Terminator 2 now. And it's like you're sitting in the theater, you're like, "Oh crap, John Connor's going to die here." And then all of a sudden he shoots
He's
the
caught
other
between two
Terminator.
Terminators.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, and then you're like, "Whoa!" Like,
it was still a really cool scene. I knew what was gonna happen.
yeah. I definitely think there's a lot to be. I mean, it's the whole thing. Like for us, we will always know Darth Vader is Luke's father, but like in the theater, that would have been crazy. And unfortunately,
Yeah,
the thing with movies is they become so famous or so popular sometimes is that they're gonna be spoiled for the next generations. I don't think good cinema is based off of the plot twists and things. At least it shouldn't be. And I don't think the Terminator falls under that category of being something that's only just a surprise, only just a twist. I think it has a lot more that's worthwhile. I think pretty much most of the Terminator movies are worth most people's time to watch.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, on the whole, yeah, I think that you can watch the whole series and get something out of each movie if you hook onto the first two movies, for sure.
Yeah,
We
but
we touched on everything I had on my notes here. I think so,
yeah, obviously
except
you were more
for
prepared than I was, so I didn't have any notes. I think that's
yeah.
everything I can
I mean,
think though.
we're pretty good at talking. I did, wanted to have something to direct us if we needed it. One of the things we didn't talk about, so I just want to say it. I really like the point that Terminators can kill you and then imitate your voice.
Yeah, that's
I
something
think
that's
that
really
adds a
cool.
lot.
It does. It adds a lot of tension because I think it's her friend, right? The one that has the boyfriend that dies, and he uses her voice to call her. Isn't that what
In
happens?
this in this movie, he imitates Sarah Connor's mom's voice. He kills
Oh, yeah,
her,
yeah, yeah. That's right.
and he
That's right.
calls her at the hotel. That's how he knows to go there.
That part is like scary because you're thinking like over the phone it's like I could see myself doing that personally like okay it probably isn't that big of a deal. I can tell my mom out of all people or I can tell
Yeah,
this close
right.
family member or like yeah I mean heck like even like some like a close friend and it ends
Hmm.
up being the Terminator like that'd be crazy to me because like I know for me personally I'd
Yeah,
probably fall victim to that and do that. That's kind of why like I didn't even think she was that dumb for doing that like because like
yeah.
sometimes
I
you're
was just
like
like,
oh like
no.
yeah sometimes you're like oh like you're so dumb. Why did you do that? Why'd you fall for that? And that's not something that
Yeah,
dumb.
the
Like
characters make like this is a horror movie, for all intents and purposes, and the characters don't make dumb choices for the most part.
yeah, yeah. That's the one thing I really like. I'm hoping Halloween is the same. I'm gonna watch that soon. Um,
Yeah, you know, but that plays into the camp a lot more than Terminator does.
yeah, that's true.
But the voice imitation thing too, like that leads it to that great scene in T2 when the T1000 and Arnold are on the phone talking to each other in other people's voices.
Yeah, that one's kind of crazy too because like they both kind of know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like
But that's a yeah.
yeah.
We'll probably
it's
have to do
all-
an episode on T2 a long ways down the road, I think. But I think we'll
Yeah.
for sure do one.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to maybe have one, maybe just on the Terminator series in general or
Yeah.
something like that. I know we kind of both have a lot of ideas with where we're going to be going with this. So, things might change down the road. They might stay the same. But I think overall, the podcast will always be revolving around films, particularly, maybe a little bit video games. Um,
I
and
think we for sure need to do some video games.
yeah, I think video games that are kind of more film-like, though, I would say. A
Yeah,
little
like
bit more
like, yeah,
story-based,
we don't
story-driven,
we
I should
don't
say.
need to do an episode on like Rocket League, but I think games like Half-Life, games like The Last of Us deserve episodes for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. I think overall we both agree that just great stories in general need to be touched on. So, yeah,
Yeah, if no one listens, me and you have these conversations anyway, so might as well record them.
yeah,
But yeah, this was a solid first episode. Looks like we're coming here under the hour mark on my end. A lot of it will probably be cut down, much like the Terminator movie.
yeah.
But yeah, thanks for talking, and until next time, Connor.
Yeah, sounds good. I will be talking to you. Thanks for everybody for listening.
Goodbye forever.